Ariana Grande is unbelievably talented. I think Wicked is a staple for the beginning of her long career in acting. And the play fight is almost like kind of like slapstick. It gives like slapstick vibes. Hey, the duel scene in Wicked broke my heart. What a beautiful piece. What a beautiful piece of cinematic brilliance. Hello, everybody. Hope you're well. Hope you're safe, hydrated, looking after yourself, and all the good things in between. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jord and this is the Winning Side podcast, Wicked for Good edition. Okay, so I did an episode last year on Wicked, and I'm back. I mean, I loved it. I loved Wicked. I'm not really a musical theatre person, but obviously for anyone who knows me, I love Ariana Grande. I love Cynthia Erivo. I really love Jonathan Bailey. So I thought, let's come back and do part 2. Saturday. It is Saturday afternoon in West London. I saw Wicked yesterday morning because I wanted to get it fresh in my mind to have this chit chat. Appreciate the tea. I'm running really late, so I haven't got time to angle it properly, but please appreciate the t-shirt. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it. So I'm pretty much just going to talk about my thoughts, what I liked, what I didn't like, and anything else that comes to mind. So I believe from the research that I've done, Wicked for Good in the film takes place 4 to 5 years after the end of the film. And in my head, I'm thinking, how is Elphaba literally living in a tree for that long? But I thought, you know what, she's magical. But then could she not magic up a house or a flat? Be each their own. But yeah, so it's been a 4 to 5 year time jump compared to the film prior. I personally think Wicked, the first film, is better. I think it's a lot more, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot more joyful, a lot more optimistic. But then obviously, because I'm somebody who doesn't really know the plot that well, I feel like I'm going based on what I would just like to see, regardless of whether or not it sticks to the tradition or not. I thought Wicked was better. However, I did thoroughly enjoy this one. I think there's been quite a lot of negative press surrounding it, which I can kind of understand why, but also I think it depends on how you perceive it. I'm not a die-hardcore musical theatre fan or babe, so I think that's why I see it somewhat differently. So I think with regards to that, I didn't really know what to anticipate because I didn't do any research, because I actually thought it'd be quite interesting to go into watching Wicked not knowing what happens. Do you know what I mean? I feel like when you know the full plot, when it's a book adaptation or whatever, you already have all these preconceptions, but it's kind of nice to have an open mind and to not really know what's necessarily going to happen. The only thing that I knew that was going to happen was that the sister was going to die, which fine by me. The film itself is definitely more darker. The themes are more darker, but it was weird that I think the choreography really got me at this point. When the cast would go into dances, I thought it was very beautifully synchronized. I really picked up on that this time. And like I said, I think Wicked was more entertaining, but I believe that this one was the most appropriate move to conclude the Wicked story. I don't think the songs in this one really hit as much as Wicked. Actually, don't get it twisted, right? I loved Good. I really, really loved Too Good. For Good, sorry, not Too Good. For Good. I thought that was very powerful. And at that point in the film, it's very much this isn't going to end well. And it's so frustrating, really, because Elphaba is such a kind person. Elphaba, she's so kind, she's so considerate, she's so selfless, right? She's always thinking about how can I help everyone else, and it just doesn't really work in her favor, to be honest. As an audience member, as a consumer, I'm literally screaming at the screen, oh, please give this woman a break. I think a really beautiful thing that I picked up on in this film in particular is that Wicked has a lot of unconditional love, you know, beautiful unconditional love that despite certain circumstances, the receiver shouldn't always necessarily receive the love they've been given, but yet it's still there and it's still available. So the prime core example would be Elphaba and Glinda. Elphaba and Glinda love each other so much, even like, and you have to think, Glinda has had to keep this secret under wraps for years, how she misses her best friend, how she's concerned for her, worried about her. The only person who she can confide in is Ferrero, but Ferrero has feelings for Elphaba, but Glinda, I guess, is probably the best alternative. And I think he does care for Glinda, but then I think also at the same time, he doesn't actually fully acknowledge and realize how strong his feelings are for Elphaba until he's reunited with her. And like that one particular scene, I thought, this isn't very child friendly. This is quite wicked. But yeah, there's a lot of unconditional love. Like even when I look at interactions between Elphaba and Glinda, it honestly kind of reflects that. I mean, I don't know these women and I love them. It almost kind of reflects the relationship we see off camera, well, I guess it's on camera, but you know what I mean? Like non-acting with Ariana and Cynthia Erivo. You know, any press junket, any interview, they're so intimate and they're just close and they're just sweet and I just love them. But like, there are certain things that have happened in that film that if that was my friend, we would not be friends, you know? The part where the part where Glinda clocks on to Elphaba having feelings for Ferrero and they're still friends. The part where Glinda sends Dorothy off to meet the wizard, full well knowing that the wizard will not be able to help. They go into a bit of a scuffle then, and again, they still love each other. It's quite funny, actually, and I feel like it isn't appreciated how Ariana Grande is so funny, so funny. That scene in particular, where the sister has been crushed by the house, and then oh my god, I need to stop saying the name. Glinda and Elphaba are interacting and they're having like a play fight, and the play fight is almost like kind of like slapstick. It gives like slapstick vibes, and how like that there's a bit where like Glinda impersonates Elphaba and it's just like really like sarcastic, very exaggerated. I think honestly, like I feel like Ariana Grande really needs to get into her comedy bag. I think because Ariana Grande is such a highly respected person who's known like as a pop star, I think her acting ability has come as quite a shock. But I think people need to remember she is a theatre kid, right? But Ariana Grande, she's really funny, like really, really funny. I feel like she definitely needs to hit that one up. But yeah, and then even Nessa and Boke, is it Boke? Like even after Boke has said to Nessa that he is not interested in her, he wants Glinda, she's obviously upset and she does some things that she shouldn't do. But when the storm approaches and it's like causing disruption to Oz, Nessa, despite those concerns, goes out looking for him because she loves him, you know? We also see Ferrero, who sacrifices himself in order to keep Elphaba safe, full well knowing, I think, if anyone's going to conquer the wizard or beat the wizard, it's going to be Elphaba. And Ferrero knows that, which is why he sacrifices himself in order to keep Elphaba safe. You know, so there's a lot of unconditional love, which I really appreciate. And I think that's something that can be resonated into particular relationships with close ones, that being friends, family members, you know, like even like necessarily, maybe not friends, because friends are like chosen family, so it's a bit different. But even when you have like people who are in your proximity who you love, despite circumstances, despite situations, it's very much messaging. It's very much portraying the message. Even if this is to happen, I still have a crazy sufficient amount of love for X and Y person. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think it's really, really subtle coding. You know what? And it feels like there's been a bit of a switch up, because I think Wicked, the first one, was very focused and very centered on Elphaba's character and Elphaba's storyline, to the point that like Glinda was a side character. And as someone who hasn't watched the show or knows much knowledge about the story, right, the OG story, I was under the impression this sequel would have the same display and development, right? But as you watch it and as you get into it after like the first 20 or 30 so minutes, you realize and you acknowledge that this time round, this sequel, this storyline is very focused and centered on Glinda. Glinda's so interesting. Glinda has probably had the biggest character development in the film, in my opinion. And I say that because Elphaba was always nice, Ferrero was always nice, and all the other characters were just always horrible. Actually, no, to be fair, Buck wasn't. Buck was just a sweetheart, but that didn't end very well for him, did it? Bless. But Glinda's really interesting. And I think Glinda's my issue with Glinda is, not my issue, but the thing that I noticed the most about Glinda is Glinda always seeks validation. For someone who's very popular and very loved, she's very insecure. You know, she wants to be magical. She wants to be respected and loved. And that rolls back even from the beginning. Like we see a snippet, a flashback of where she's a child and she gets a wand for her birthday, and she has no power. She's powerless. And I think her mum even says to her, "Oh, you've got everything you want, or you have everything you ever wanted," but she hasn't got power, you know. And I think it's because in a way she kind of wants to be because she is a good, kind person deep down, and that's shown very clearly at the end of the film. But I think I just think she is always looking for other ways or other things to satisfy her. You know, she wants to be like superior. She wants to be the best. And I think initially it was to be more in like a narcissistic, possessive way. But like as we reach the end of the film, she's actually doing it for the good of other people. You know, like she is a good, kind person deep down through and through. And I think being friends with Elphaba is the root for that. But but like that wasn't, I don't think those were the initial ideas or thoughts when we are introduced to Glinda at the beginning of Wicked Part 1. It was really nice to see her transitional period. Like she has gone from being very dependent to independent. Like there's a scene at the near beginning which makes me quite sad, where she's made some announcement to the people of Oz, and Madame Morrible makes the announcement that Ferrero and Glinda are engaged. Ferrero wasn't even aware of this, right? And then when they go behind the stage to have a little debrief, she basically asks, would he be interested? And his response is, if that makes you happy. And then I believe there's some, I can't remember, please don't quote me. And there's something about asking whether he'll be happy with it or not. And then he just walks off. And you can tell, I don't know if Glinda really loves Ferrero like that. I don't know if she's like more like in love with the idea of being in love, or if she's like infatuated by him. I don't know whether she actually like quote unquote loves him for him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the love that she has for Elphaba is more substantial than the love that she has for Ferrero, in my opinion. But then we get to see this amazing change in character, like at the end. I think Elphaba has given Glinda a lot of confidence. I think Elphaba has made her like very aware of her ability and her capability, right? When it comes to the realization that, or when it becomes aware to the wizard, the fraudster even, that he is Elphaba's dad, and then Glinda demands him to leave. And then when Madame Morrible manipulates the weather into being out there to kill Nessa at the same time, she's arrested. And I think I'm proud of Glinda because it's a complete 360. That would not have been her initially, you know. I feel like she always has like the right morals and principles like down, but like she just needed like a bit of a push, and Elphaba really gave her that push. And like but let's be honest, yeah, Ariana Grande is a superstar. She's so talented, she's so versatile. Wicked for Good really showcased that Ariana Grande is not just a pop star. It showed us that she is a phenomenal actor. She's so good at being able to convey so many different emotions in such a short period. We go from her being comedic to heartbreaking to making you cackle. I think there's something really impressive about someone who is an established pop star who can actually act. There's a lot of pop stars who dabble into the acting space and they really don't fulfill the needs. But when you have that status, you're able to get away with it. Ariana Grande is unbelievably talented. I think Wicked is a staple for the beginning of her long career in acting, and I'm so excited to see what she does next. She deserves it all. Big up Ariana every blood clot time. I've been here since Victorious, right? Victorious, those dark days with that show that probably isn't as good as I like to think it was. But yeah, we're still here. What I didn't like. Now, I don't know how this runs. I get that some of it's obviously like really heavily structured into like how it was written however many years ago, and I probably should have done the appropriate research to have known that, but like I didn't. So we just need to leave it the way it is, okay? Honestly, like I really hate Nessa. Like heavy on the hate. Like everything about her is just irritating, right? And I think the bit that did it for me was, it really frustrates me how like Nessa is so ungrateful for Elphaba. Elphaba would do anything for her sister. And it was quite interesting seeing that interaction because obviously Nessa is now the governor of Oz, right? They haven't spoken since she left, right? And Nessa wasn't particularly very kind to her sister anyway, so I don't really get the issue. And obviously Nessa's frustrated and annoyed because she didn't show up for her dad's funeral. But like, the pair of them both know their dad didn't like Elphaba, you know, and Elphaba is already at such a risk. Even though like in that film she reappears so many times, I'm thinking, you haven't shown your face, Elphaba, for years, and within the space of a couple of days you've literally shown up like what, 3-4 times? You're crazy, babe, but I love you. Yeah, but I find Nessa very entitled. I think she's quite selfish, and she has very little concern for her sister and how she's doing. She hasn't seen her sister for years, bear in mind, and all she's going on about is like giving her what she wants. And then I was really frustrated at the fact how she didn't take accountability for turning Bok into the Tin Man, you know? Like Elphaba already has so many enemies and so many people like up against her, and I'm thinking, you have literally made things so much worse. I just think she's a very unlikable character. She's very selfish. I think the actress there, Marissa, is very talented, and I think she's great. Love her. But I just hate Nessa. But like, do you know what though? I think she's a good actress because I've known people that have done interviews with her, etc., and like have said that she's lovely, right? So like, big up her. But I think that actually makes it better because you're a nice person, but you have made a character so unlikable. That is the qualities of a good actor, in my opinion. But yeah, like, I just don't like her. However, though, hats off though. Got to give my cred. I was really taken back by how good Ethan Slater was. When we look at how Bok is and how he's very quirky, very flamboyant, very giddy, very sweet. A complete switch up with the Tin Man. He almost looks dead behind the eye. When you see that interaction between him and Glinda, someone who he supposedly loved, he looks at her, he looks straight through her, like in zombie mode. You know, I think Ethan Slater is very talented. I think Wicked for Good really showcased his versatility as an actor, and I'm really excited to see where he goes. I feel like the film kind of felt a bit rushed. Kind of felt a bit rushed. Like, I feel like the pacing was a bit weird. And I don't know if that's because the scenes are short. I don't know. This is just my initial thought. I may even cut this out because it may not make sense. But I just had this feeling thinking it felt quite rushed, and it felt like things and scenes didn't have a lot not even a lot, sorry, just not as much focus as before. You know, like it just felt like one thing was happening and then it already jumped to another. And I don't know if that's the pace they were going for. I don't know. Like, you know, when you just like something just doesn't really hit. And like, obviously, as somebody who hasn't watched the play, I was really shocked that Elphaba was alive. So can someone tell me this? I thought water made her skin boil. That was what I was researching. So I'm a bit confused by that. And also, if she had have sunk, how did she get under the hidden door? There's just a lot of things. I get why the plan was made, so her and Ferrero can run out into the sun together. Like, I get that. It makes sense. It's logical. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, so when Dorothy threw the water over her, what did she think happened? And how did she pretend to melt? Maybe I've missed something. Maybe I need to rewatch. Maybe I need to rewatch and come back and then do it again. I feel like also there's quite a few people that just didn't get any coverage at all. I feel like we really didn't get much of Madame Morrible at all. People are really complaining about her ability. I've seen quite a lot because she can't sing. But like, to be honest though, like, that, I don't know, maybe that just doesn't faze me. As long as Elphaba and Glinda can sing, I'm cool. And I don't think it sounded as bad as people made out. People made it out like it was the worst thing ever. Like, yeah, it wasn't like too comfortable or too pleasing on the ears, but it wasn't like the worst thing ever. In my opinion, like I thought it was mid. I didn't think it was horrific. I didn't think it was like astounding or astonishing. It wasn't obviously giving Ariana Grande or Cynthia Erivo, but like I thought it was okay. But that's just, again, I don't sing, I don't rap. I just talk into a mic. So that's just my opinion. All right, you got me. I feel like there were some parts that just didn't make sense. Like I felt like the first like half an hour, 20 minutes just wasn't like very necessary. Like I don't think it really gave a backstory or really gave much to like the plot, in my opinion. I actually went to go write notes down in the cinema, but like I was paranoid that I was going to get told to leave because my phone was really bright. But yeah, maybe it'll come back to me and then I can mention it again. But like, I did enjoy the film. I thought the film was good. I think the negative reception it's getting is really unfair. Like you can tell that it was like really well thought out, really well directed. Like I think it's a decent show. Like I'm impressed. I also think that this film did not showcase Cynthia's voice as well as Wicked did, but I don't know if that's because I think like the more important, the more memorable, the more bigger songs were all in the first part, for good obviously. But other than that, I just thought maybe I'm missing something. I was very tired when I watched this film, so I don't know if that contributed to it. I have to also say, right, I just love Jonathan Bailey. God, I love Jonathan Bailey. What a beautiful man. Do you know what? If Jonathan Bailey knocked on my door out and turned into a scarecrow, I'd still let him in. He makes me want to be shy. Cynthia Erivo, you are a lucky woman. You are I know it's acting and I get it's method and I get it's not real, but even still, maybe I need to become an actor. Maybe that's the nearest I get to lips and Jonathan Bailey. Or like interviewing, to be fair. Manifest, everybody. I really loved watching Ferrero and Elphaba's relationship develop. Like I think they both like suppressed these feelings for a long time. A, because they weren't able to be with each other, and B, because of Glinda, you know? I think Ferrero does care for Glinda, not to the level he does with Elphaba, but he does care for her. And I love the pairing. And then when it reaches the end where she's green, he's a scarecrow, they both have these attributes which aren't necessarily conventionally attractive, and yet they still fall for each other. There's a really beautiful quote that I loved. It's when they're talking to, well, not a quote, but a saying, and it's when they because they both do it, they both have this interaction, but they both take it in turns either side, where it's like, you're beautiful, you don't have to lie to me, I'm not lying. It's looking at things another way. And I think Wicked was a really good example and a really good communicator to show that people who may not be necessarily conventionally attractive are still desired, are still deserving of love. I think film and entertainment and media can be so focused on presenting and displaying people who are conventionally attractive, it kind of neglects people that don't fit into that small box, that small category. And I think having characters like Elphaba and having a character near the end of the film like Ferrero, who do not necessarily have these typical conventions of beauty, it's just like, I think it's a really beautiful message, and it's really substantial and really monumental. But like, yeah, I liked the film. I want to talk about two parts which I thought were really, really interesting and kind of like gave really good messaging. The one part that I thought that was really quite sad is the interaction between Madame Morrible and Glinda. I believe at this point Glinda is like just very frustrated and very annoyed, but she's still reluctant to stand up for herself. She's still shy. You know, she's very protective of Elphaba. Her love for Elphaba never died, no matter, even in those years where they were apart. And I think Glinda is slowly getting her confidence at this point, and she says to Madame Morrible, like, this isn't running down. I don't want to do this. And then Madame Morrible literally says to her, do what you do best. Smile, wave, and shut up. And I think so often when you are like, because Ariana Grande and Glinda, they are objectively attractive people, right? And I feel like when you are, especially for women, a lot of the time you're expected to just show your face and keep quiet, you know? Kind of shows this like low-key, like misogynistic viewpoint that someone like Glinda should be grateful for the luxuries and the privileges that she has. And you have to remember at this point, Glinda doesn't have magic. Glinda does not have magic. She's very dependent on a wand. She's very dependent on the things that she's been given. Obviously, she gains magic. I believe she gains magic near the end where you see like the book glowing up. But, you know, it can even be argued that she's a fraud. You know, I wouldn't go that far because I love her, but you know what I mean? Yeah, I really liked that scene. I think that scene will really resonate with a lot of women, like being restricted to their physical appearance, not really being appreciated for anything else. And then oh my God, I absolutely, this episode's so messy. It's literally not chronological at all. I'm so sorry. I loved the final scene with Elphaba and Glinda. The final scene with Elphaba and Glinda is the most important scene in all of Wicked. It's so beautiful, it's so heartbreaking, and it's just phenomenal. Elphaba has never had a friend before Glinda, and she tells her that. She says to Glinda, I've never had a friend before. And Glinda's quite funny as always and says, well, I've had lots of friends, but none of them have ever mattered like you. And this part is heartbreaking. They are so important to each other. It's a real symbol of friendship, sisterhood, and platonic love. You know, I feel like sometimes platonic love can be really underestimated, but like it's beautiful, it's substantial, and it's just I think it's just so important. And at this point, people from Oz have been sent to the castle to kill Elphaba, and then Elphaba is very persistent to say to Glinda, don't leave any traces, don't leave any tracks, don't try and clear my name, because if you do, they will come for you too. And this scene's really, really emotional, quite somewhat distressing, to be honest. And then Glinda goes into hiding. The door scene in Wicked broke my heart. What a beautiful piece of cinematic brilliance. John Chu, you ate. You can see how these people so desperately want to open the door and be with each other, but for the sake of each other's safety, it's not allowed. You know, there's this restriction, you know. If Glinda goes through to Elphaba, she risks herself. And if Glinda gets killed as well, who will look after Oz? I think that's what Elphaba's thinking. Elphaba is very aware of Glinda's capability and what she can do for the people. But if Glinda opens the door, she'll also get caught. And if Elphaba opens the door, that could lead them to Glinda, you know? And it's just like... And even like when Elphaba is alive, like for the sake, it's all for Glinda's safety. You know, that's what I'm saying. Elphaba has literally left the only place that she ever knows in order to protect her best friend's safety. But then like at the same time, Glinda will then spend the rest of her life thinking her best friend has died. You know, neither of them are really winners in this point. Obviously, like the ending is beautiful. Like, Glinda promises to look after Oz, treat everyone with kindness and pureness, and to appreciate the animals and to not neglect anybody, you know. And then that's when she gains the powers because she's deserving of it, because whether it's Elphaba, whether it's the universe, they're aware that she will look after these people. And it's just so beautiful. It kind of like resonates and kind of gives the messaging that like good things happen to those who wait, good things happen to those who are kind. And yeah, I think it was the best. I think it was a nice conclusion. Obviously, like in an ideal world, Elphaba and Glinda would run off in the sunset together. But I feel like sometimes that can be a bit predictable. And obviously, like we can't argue with history, which has been around for like hundreds and hundreds of years. But yeah, Wicked for Good is a great film. I preferred the first one personally, but I think this one has a lot more layers to it, you know, a lot more depth, a lot more seriousness. They were able to combine the mixture of comedy, realness, and emotion. You know, it was captivating, it was aesthetically pleasing, and it was very well delivered, and it landed, you know. Ariana Grande is a superstar. I think this film has definitely showcased her in a better light as an actress compared to Wicked, the first part. Cynthia Erivo is undeniably talented. I really hope for all of the cast, this allows them to have more opportunities, further progression and development within all of their careers, no matter what creative avenue they wish to take part in. And I'm really excited to see where it goes for all of them. Yeah, okay guys, I think I'm done here. My name is Jord Hailwood. This is the Winning Side podcast. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. And please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you very soon.